This is video 2 of this series. We could say it's a series because we're working with the Eightfold Path, and this is step 2, or the second area of the Eightfold Path, which is called skillful thinking, skillful thoughts. Last week we looked at skillful understanding, which is the understanding of the reason we suffer. Or first of all, that we do suffer, and we suffer because of our desires. But there is actually a way to stop this suffering through the practice and through the overall understanding of the Eightfold Path, which is what we're working with here. The Eightfold Path is not, we look at it step by step, just to get a clear understanding of how these steps work. But in reality, it's all connected, and very much so, especially when we look at this week's practice of skillful thinking. Skillful thinking is it's the cognitive aspect of the path. We could say that when we hear the term, put your thinking caps on, what does that really mean? It means that we're going to actually actively think some things through, and in this case, it's a part of the process of how all of this is connected. Now, as I just mentioned, the Buddha, and I think we would all agree that our suffering is a direct result of our wanting things to be different, our desire for things to be different. This desire is, we could look at it as kind of being greedy. It's something that we're hanging on to. It's absolutely the complete opposite of generosity. And when we look at the practices of meditation, and actually all of the Buddhist path, but particularly, let's just isolate meditation and the Eastern practices. So I'm not talking about the kind of the New Age practices of self-hypnosis, where we are trying to manifest or manifesting something into our lives, which is a wonderful practice in itself. But I'm talking about the Eastern practices of meditation, which is purely a renunciation. It's a letting go. And in that letting go, we're letting go of many different things, but particularly negative mind states, letting go of our beliefs, letting go of our story, which can hold us back in a huge way from what we want to achieve in life and what we want to understand in life. And this is the healing quality of meditation itself, this letting go, this renunciation, this directly related to the opposite of greed, because letting go could also be looked at as sharing or as giving, because when we let go of things, those things have to go someplace. Particularly if we think in terms of material things, if we let go of material things, it goes someplace else. It goes to others that might perhaps need it. So when we let go, if this is directly related to easing of having generosity towards others, letting go is like this. It's like allowing things to flow out of us and into the world. And when we are able to do that, the direct result is the elimination of our desires. Generosity is the opposite of desiring. Desiring is like this. Generosity is like this. And so when we meditate, this letting go is actually generosity. Generosity is the opposite of desire. Therefore, meditation is a direct link to the elimination of our desires, which is our suffering. I just mentioned, and the Buddha mentioned in the Four Noble Truths, that our suffering is related to our desires. We suffer because we desire, and our desires are eliminated through the practice of meditation. When we realize this, when we realize that this is happening, we can apply this towards not only ourselves, but towards every living being. And this is loving friendliness or loving kindness, the metta practice, which is another aspect of this skillful thinking. Skillful thinking is letting go, loving friendliness, and then compassion. And this is the area that once we have loving kindness towards ourselves and towards others, we can have this compassion towards ourselves and towards others in the same way. Let's say we meet an individual, and we might see this in ourselves too, but we meet an individual that is very uptight, very grumpy, and not very nice, and maybe just a jerk, right? The reason, if we can see this and understand this whole thing that I just explained, we can understand that this person is this way because of their inability to let go of something. And this is huge, this is big, because if we understand that this person is in the same situation that we are in, that they can't let go of something, whether it's a memory of the past or something that is holding them back, or some habitual behavior that they learned, or something that happened even when they were a small person, a small boy or girl that caused problems that made them the way they are today. It's because they're unable to let go. They're unable to let go of that. And so it's a directly related to their suffering. They're unable to let go. They don't have that. Aren't able to share that generosity towards others. They suffer. That suffering is what they're part of their behavior. But if we can see that in that person and see it in ourselves, that's generosity. So these areas, this letting go and this loving friendliness or loving kindness and this generosity, letting go is actually not generosity, but compassion. Letting go, loving friendliness, and compassion. This letting go, first of all, is generosity. Compassion, or loving friendliness, is love. And compassion is forgiving, and it's allowing. And so these are the states of mind that are very, very healing for ourselves and very beneficial for the world. And these are the primary areas of thought that the Buddha laid out for us, and for good reason, because they can be absolutely life-changing. They're a direct link to the very first part of the path, skillful understanding, that we suffer because of our desires. And our desires can be eliminated through the practice of generosity, letting go. And meditation is a direct practice in letting go, in renunciation. So therefore, we can eliminate all of our pain and all of our suffering through the practice of meditation, and through this realization that this is a way for all mankind to be beneficial, that loving friendliness towards these beings is the generosity. And the understanding of this is huge, because we hold this space for all the negativity, and we understand it. And all we have to do is have compassion for these people, and it eases up our anger towards them. It eases up our frustration towards these people, because now we understand. why they are the way they are. We understand the way we are too. So skillful thinking, we think about 90,000 thoughts per day. It's said. I haven't counted them lately, but that's quite a few thoughts. And how are we using these thoughts? Are we thinking in terms of how many negative thoughts we're having out of those 90, or how many positive thoughts we're having out of those 90? So what are we practicing throughout the days? Look at our thoughts. We should look at our thinking process and see what we are habitually thinking about. What is coming up for us? Is it positive or is it negative? The thinking process is very, very powerful. And if we think in terms of, there's a belief that if we believe in past lives and future lives, that all of that is directed by the last thought that we have in this lifetime, that could cause the karma for us to be reborn into some other state or other being. In other words, if we have anger in our minds when we die, we could be reborn as an angry person. Whether we believe that or not, that's just a thought that's out there. It's a belief that's out there. But what if we took that on a daily basis? What's the last thought that we have when we go to sleep at night? Is it friendly? Is it loving? Or is it negative and harsh? And then when we wake up in the morning, what do we have? Chances are we have the same thoughts and the same patterns in mind that we had when we went to sleep. It carries through. Each thought is followed by another thought. So we can change all of that right now. We can have loving, compassionate, understanding thoughts and see what follows that and see how we feel. We'll feel much lighter. The juices will be much more positive, the chemistry of the body. We'll live longer. We'll be happier. So think of the thoughts. Think of the cognition. Stay with it. If you have any questions, let me know at shane@meditationlearningcenter.com. So, thank you.